Hello and welcome to the Jayanddreshow. I'm your host Dre.
And I'm your boy Jay.
And this is Mr. Timmy James, a special guest of ours, a dear friend and cousin.
I want to pass this question to y'all. Man, discipline. Discipline is a big taboo subject in American society right now. There was a law enforcement officer recently in Richland County. His stepson talked back to him. He beat him with the belt. The report said his stepson went to the hospital. He had bruises on the lower extremity of his body. So it wasn't the facial area, it wasn't the upper part. Basically, the stepson got beaten. But maybe we live in a society now where the government and the state is basically saying, if you discipline your child and you leave a mark on them, you're liable to go to jail. Do you think it's setting us up for failure as parents?
My philosophy on it is like this. This martial discipline is a last resort. And the way I view it is somewhat like managing employees. If I have to resort to my title and rank, I've already failed. And it's a last resort. So with my son, and we were just having this conversation earlier, I use several different means of discipline with them. Sometimes I just let them cry and ignore them. Sometimes it's taking certain things away from him. Sometimes it's withholding things from him. And I find those things to be very effective. And then sometimes there are times where, to be frank, he is very rare and few between, but where he smells himself a little bit and he tries to challenge. And what I found is couple pops or whatever, most of the time that's all it takes. And what has happened since then, because when he first got about wasn't quite 2, it was like 1.5 years is when he started exhibiting those behaviors. And he was terrible. Like, he was very, very combative, very, I'm not really sure what the word, but he was very challenging to my authority. And to authority in general.
It's chill.
He was a rebel. I mean, but then again, I can't really say it's unexpected given who his father is, given who his grandfather is. You know, it was in us, so it manifested in him. So I feel like if you remove that completely, it does make it a bit more difficult to parent in certain circumstances, because I feel that there are cases and situations where it is warranted. Yeah. And conversely, I don't really, if it's not somebody's cup of tea, that's fine. But I think to really empower situations to the point where a child with a simple phone call, I got a little bit of because there's a difference between a spanking where, you know what, yeah, you got a good lick versus child abuse. And we've all been disciplined in this room right here several times, and I've seen the difference between it, and I know it when I see it, and I hate to really go there with that type of an argument, but I know child abuse when I see it. I know I can see signs of an abused child. There's a difference between whoops from somebody wailing on their kid, and there's a difference between, yo, he got a bump because he took a good lick. And I know that at face value sounds kind of stupid, but it's true.
That's what I'm saying. It's a fact of life, man.
It's true.
Well, see, I'm just gonna be completely honest. The fact that when you brought this up, my first instinct was, man, I don't know if I should say I whooped my son because I'm scared something could happen to him.
That's right.
The fact that I was scared to even say that lets you know where we at. And the reason I say that is this. If I'm in public, I'll be honest with you, I'm not comfortable disciplining my son outside of, hey, let's go to the car. But I know for a fact 5, 10 years from now, if my son do some of the things that makes me want to discipline him physically to an officer, the officer could kill him and nobody have a problem with that. And I take issue with that because a lot of times the people who judge you be like, well, you got to find a better way. You got to do something differently. Those would be the same people, if they see a video 10 years from now of my son getting gunned down, they would have been like, well, he should have complied. That'd be the first thing they say. So you cool with my son getting killed, and the reason I keep saying my son, because he's 4 years old. I know he's going to be a big black guy. I'm just call it what it is. You cool with seeing a kid get gunned down, but you're not okay with seeing a kid get disciplined by his parents. Something is not right about that. And I think we've gotten to a place where people just want to do stuff to judge you. It's like, well, you doing that because you were able to talk to him or do. No, I'm doing that because I'm trying to keep my son from being on a hashtag. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, there are a lot of ways to do it, and I tell anybody this. My first resort is never spanking my child. It's never that. My first resort is, hey, this is what you're doing wrong, correct it. I tell them again, hey, this is what you're doing wrong, correct it. Sometimes time out's the third thing. Sometimes, hey, we gotta go to the room. Me and you gonna talk one-on-one. I don't think I've ever whooped my son in front of other people. And I just think personally I think it's sad we've at that place where I'm scared to discipline my own child, but if an officer see him 5-10 years from now, the officers are comfortable shooting him. I think that's sad personally.
It's a vicious conundrum, man, because it's to the point, my kids, for example, they know that I believe in discipline, I do. But they know that I don't like discipline in front of people. I don't like making scenes, meaning being loud or yelling around other people. And the difference in behavior of when it's me and them and when it's them around other people is noticeable difference. And it's funny because I guess other people say, well, they act how I see them act. But if it's just me and them in the home, it's a completely different child. So, in my opinion, man, like Tim said, it's sad that our child that we birthed, that we are responsible for, that we've gotten to the point where we scared. And be honest with you, our careers, our jobs, and our reputations would be on the line for doing the right thing, in my opinion. And something has to be done.
Let me ask you this. What do you feel would be an appropriate solution to that conundrum?
We can't. I say people need to mind their business. Mind your business. Bottom line is, like you were saying earlier, when you see abuse, you know abuse. Like, let's call it a spade.
Yeah.
Now, if you see my son, he got bruises on him, he limping and rubbing on him, by all means, call the cops on me. I call the cops on myself if I ever get crazy enough to do something like that to my child. But if you see me talking to my son, he's not acting right, and I pop him on the hand, pop him on the butt, or something like that, and you, hey, don't do that. No, I don't think that's right.
And I know where I wanted to go before I piggyback into Drake. Where I wanted to go from the early part is this. I was absolutely furious, man. Do y'all remember when
Agent P,
he disciplined his child? And Chris Carter got on TV, right? And Chris Carter said, sometimes we gotta learn that mothers, speaking about his mother, basically speaking about older black community in general, because it's known that the black community tends to be more into martial punishment than other kids, right? So anyway, say sometimes we have to know that mother was wrong. My kids, I don't late. This is why that's an ignorant comment, because Tim said it earlier. Now, Chris Carter's rich. Chris Carter's child probably no doubt lives in the upper middle class, and no doubt in a wealthy neighborhood. Chris Carter kids don't go to school with kids that sell weed. I went to Helen Elementary in the country county. We had people selling drugs in 5th and 6th grade. Chris Carter kids are not going to know what a blood is, what a Crip is in person. They're not going to know. They're not going to have a friend. Once again, we're from a rural community. I had a friend that shot at in 7th grade. His kids are not. What I'm getting at is the reason why I believe the older African American parents and us in a way, our repercussions is different. You know what I'm saying? We disciplining our child. We know that we don't get the benefit of the doubt. I work in law enforcement. I'm one person that do not believe that police brutality is the biggest problem, as a lot of people think. But I will say we are judged more harshly, and our wiggle room is different. So when we do discipline and we do use corporal punishment, when we do use corporal punishment, it's for a reason, man. Because I'm trying to save my child life, in my opinion.
Now, what do you say to the people that say you only do that because it was instilled in us because the slave masters used to beat us, so you know better than the slave master beating your child?
Let me ask you this.
That's good talk.
What culture, what society does not believe in corporal punishment?
That's right.
I could tell you.
I know not of one. I'm a little bit of an amateur anthropologist. I've read books about Chinese culture, read books about Sumerian culture, ancient Kemetic culture, African cultures, European cultures. I have not come across one where the stance is it is inappropriate to use corporal punishment on a child given certain situations. And my stance is, once again, that shouldn't be your go-to. You know, like, hey, I'm gonna beat the kid for everything. No, not at all. But certain things, there's a certain gravity that needs to be portrayed to it. And sometimes physical discipline is necessary to convey that gravity. For instance,
That's a great point.
I remember when I was young, because I was, at this point in time, I was ignorant. And I was in 3rd grade. And a teacher, we had a little bit of a store at school. So I'd always take my little leftover lunch money and go get a little trinket from the school store. And I bought a wallet. And the teacher said, it's like, what are you going to do with the wallet? I said, I don't know. I just like Super Mario. And she said, well, you got a wallet. Money's supposed to be in the wallet. So I said, oh. So I get home. I'm like, I got a wallet with no money in it. So I asked my big brother, I was like, yo, man, give me $1. Wow. I asked my mom, give me $1. No. So I was like, all right, well, we all family. They money, my money anyway. I'm gonna spend it anyway. So I went in my mama's purse.
Don't do it.
I got all the money, and I put it in my wallet, you know. And I didn't know I was stealing from my mama, but I was nonetheless, and I did learn.
You're gonna learn today.
And you know, once again, to me, if that 7-year-old me, if you had asked me what I thought stealing was, I would say stealing is when somebody got something in their hand and I go up and I take it. Now I'm thinking like, well, you know, people don't always have their property in their hand. And that was an important concept that was conveyed to me at an early age, which stuck with me, and one which, because of the gravity of the punishment, I dare not ever touch anybody else's possessions like that without at least asking first.
That's right. And I'm going with Tim said, as far as, I was telling him, yes, it does have slavery does have a part to play with why we discipline a lot more. But not because we're imitating what we learned from, quote unquote, the master, but because of the gravity, like how you said that, the gravity of the repercussions. For example, my uncle, which is basically like my father figure, he said that they knew in Vaughnville that if you got caught downtown Hampton or downtown Vaughnville when the street lights went off, I forgot an officer name, he said, but he would beat your brains in with the baton. So I would guess that when he was in the home and his mother said, Mike, come here, and he didn't come initially, she beat us behind. And to the outside person who don't understand the gravity of the repercussions, it would seem that she's harsh. But she's beating him, not to be brutal, not to abuse, but to save him. Same thing on the plantation. I believe that they discipline hard on the plantation because it's better for me to get that switch and beat you for not listening than you not listening when master tell you to do something. He tie you up to that tree and beat you to your back blood. That's what people don't understand. The repercussions of our community and our society has a great amount of importance. The reason why I believe corporal punishment is necessary, very necessary.
points before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about the difference between my wife and myself, between punishment, but I don't know if I'm gonna go that deep in.
Well, I mean, and so jumping back into it, do you think it? First of all, before I pose the question, do you think it's a female male thing, or do you think it's you and her thing?
Me and her thing.
Okay, so basically, we gonna spice back into this. You gonna bring it in?
Well, no, keep going.
So, you know, that personally, that's why I believe. Once again, while you know, on the plantation that operated the way it operated. Now, Tim, I've heard you say that. I heard you say that it is a difference in the way that you deliver punishment. I don't like to say punishment. I say correctiveness in the way your wife delivers correctiveness. So explain that.
Yeah, so if I be frank, the way we were raised was, if you don't do something, you may get a warning. You may not get a warning, but you're gonna get a behind cut if you don't listen. Bottom line. The way my wife was raised was, her mother, when she was growing up, her mother saw kids get whooped with, somebody had something with knife inside of something. They had knife inside of something. I forgot what she called it. She might be making this up, but this is what she told me. So her mother was like, I'm not about to do that to my kids.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not about to do that to my kids. And I said, I can't blame you for that. So my wife wasn't raised the way I was raised. So whenever we had our kids, and I'm like, yo, man, he's my son's getting out of hand. It's time to, you know, incorporate some physical punishment. She was like, no, we're not doing that. And after a while, you know, we sat down, we talked about it. It was like, listen, if we don't get him, you see all these things you watch on this TV. If I don't get him now, 4 or 5 years from now, ain't nobody gonna do nothing to him. So now we're kind of on the same page now. Well, again, you will never, y'all been around me. You will never see me with my son, or you will never see me let that be a first line of punishment. But if it calls for it now, me and my wife both are on the same page now. If it calls for it,
I will say this, that it's kind of funny because my wife, well, ex-wife, is more the disciplinarian in regards to our son than I am. So I feel like it's one of those things where it's a dynamic that has to be attained within your relationship. Because I've talked to plenty of people where it's one way where, you know, daddy only come and get them when it's something real serious. Most like 9% of everything else, mama take care of. Like if I come home and she's like, get him, like yo, it's serious, and I mean it's just whatever works for you and your family, I guess. At the end of the day.
so I guess to answer your question, it's not based on male or female. I really do think it's based on that person.
Personality.
Because there's going to be, like you said, there's going to be some men that's not going to be the primary disciplinarian. It'll be the woman.
Yeah, a lot of, you know, but I know we're trying to. I can't. And y'all right, man. But I'm not the only one. You know? Have y'all ever been around people in our generation and you looked at them like, man, who raised them? I'm talking about men now. And I think the problem is, man, you have a lot of women that are the primary disciplinarians. And I'm not even talking about from a physicality standpoint. This is what I'm saying. My wife, as far as corporal punishment, probably delivers more corporal punishment than me. But even though that's true, my kids act differently when she says something and when I said something. It's something about a strong male presence it's just needed, man.
No, I would concur with that, and I would also say this. When you said our generation, I would also say keep in mind that you have a lot of kids, or a lot of people in our generation. We're no longer kids, we're grown men and women.
That's true.
You had a lot of people who came up as latchkey kids, man, where their parents were at work most of the time. They had a key. They went to school. They get out of school. They were able to go do whatever, whenever. There was no oversight for them. Their parents came home like 8, 9 o'clock. It was, hey, get your homework done. If it's not done already, wash up, go to bed. And you did this whole thing all over again tomorrow. And in essence, they had no opportunity for discipline. Because if I'm getting home like 8, 9 o'clock, and it's been a long day at work, like yo, from a parent perspective, like I'm already tired. I've been busting my butt all day. Not only that, but I don't even know what you've done. So as long as the house is in place, I don't even know to suspect that something's out of order, that you've been connected yourself out of order. So I don't even know to discipline you.
Oh, Dre, oh man, you got something powerful. And we're going to have to wrap it up, but I want to leave y'all with this thought. You want to keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, now, some people say the fact now that, and it sounds kind of machoism, whatever, but the fact that now that females work, and that females, in a lot of cases, especially in the African American society, make more money than the male, that it's ruined the family structure in the marriage, and because you have two people working. But also, do you think that it ruined the structure as far as discipline? Because back then, like you said, you had, in American society, you could live in a middle class family off one income, right? But now that's really hard to do. So now instead of having that mother figure that's home, that's helping with homework, that's teaching, that's learning, that's instilling discipline on a minute by minute, hourly basis, now you have parents, they're here, they're there. Most of us are lucky. We're lucky to work 8 to 5 jobs. Majority of Americans do not work 8 to 5 jobs. So they're working 12 hours. They may see their kid for an hour, hour and a half. They're going to sleep. Do you think that that's one of the detriments to our society, that two parents have to work now?
I would definitely concur with that. It definitely is, because when I worked in a call center, one of the biggest things that I saw in relation to majority of like day off requests or special requests in general was you had a lot of people working these horrible schedules. I mean, horrible in terms of the working hours, like 3:30 to 12 or whatnot.
That's when you get home, man.
So on and so forth.
Yeah.
And there's certain things coming up like Awards Day or special things going on at school that they didn't necessarily have the natural days off. Like they probably work like 3:30 to 12 off Saturday and Sunday. So the school event or functions coming up, they got to take off. So I mean, it's one of those things where we have to find a way to adapt to that. Change is a constant in society, and not saying that all changes are good, but we can control how we react to the changes.
Good point.
And it's one of those things where every family has to kind of sit down, put their heads together, and see how can they make that work. And one of the things that, especially in terms of ladies, that had those really janky schedules that put them out of their kids' lives like that, like the biggest thing that I always heard, because I was one of the people that did the scheduling, was I don't get a chance to see my kids. But when I come home, my kids are already asleep. I don't even have a chance to interact with my kids, and that was something that, like, on an emotional level, it hurt them. But even just on a child rearing level, like, I was like, yo, I don't even know how you could do that. Like, really raise a kid with a schedule like that without any type of help.
That's fact. It'd be pretty hard. But to your point, though, I don't think, and I know a lot of people disagree with this, I don't think two parents working affects the discipline. And this is why I say that. At a young age, I think it has a bigger bearing. The kid, they come to daycare, they come home early. But once they start going to elementary school on, a lot of times your kid could be going from 7:30 till 5 o'clock if they doing activities after school and stuff like that. So if you're working, and again, we're one of the few people who are lucky to have a regular 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job. If you're working those kind of schedule, you're able to get home at the times when your kid's home. So to me, I think more important, as opposed to the schedule, having two people working, is what you do at that time you have with your kid. And I bring that up because one of the things I did this past summer, when my son used to come home, I used to put on the TV, let them watch Mother Goose Club. You know, I'm tired as I came home from work. Let them watch TV till it's about time to go to bed. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm not building a relationship with my kid. So y'all probably seen the post. So what I started doing was going to the park. Like 4 times a week. I just get up, we go to the park. We'd be out there enough for maybe 2 hours. But while we're at the park, it's giving us a chance to interact. It's giving me a chance to correct. Because you know, a kid act differently from inside the house and outside the house.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're outside the house, it gives you, and another thing I had to do, I had to check myself on this.
Yeah.
When my son was coming up, I used to be like, Christian, do it. He'll do it. As long as he listened to me, I was like, all right, cool. But when my wife told him to do something, sometimes he'd be slow. And I just kind of like, you know, be honest, I didn't really pay attention. So one of the things I started doing, going to the park, if my wife told my son to do something, he would do it. Say, hey, did you hear your mama? You know what I'm saying? You gotta catch it, you gotta stop it. And I had to correct myself on that. So again, I understand why people would say that, but I don't think having 2 parents working is that much of a detriment. You just have to probably work a little harder to instill that discipline.
You got a great point, Tom.
Well,
go ahead, bro.
Well, I would say this. For me, when I was coming up, because both of my parents did work, I can relate this anecdotally back to my experience. My experience was, I call it the village system, because my mom's had me where she was dropping me off in the morning at my grandfather's house. I'd catch the bus from my grandfather's, come back to my grandfather's, I'll catch my mom after she got off work and go home. But during that time, if anybody saw me or my cousins doing any type of wrong, Miss Gladys had the right to whoop me, Mr. Hazel had the right to whoop me, anybody, because they were all either friends of family or family themselves, they already knew that if they saw, hey, I see Nate, Sydney, and Andre, they wrecking up stuff down there, hey, they were well within their right to come out and discipline me however they saw fit. And most times, if they had to come out and discipline me, or my cousin or whoever, automatically, they disciplined us on the spot. They marched us back to our house, told my grandfather, soon as the door closed, I got again because somebody else had to discipline me. And then when my parents got home, it got a third time.
Your granddad had to do it, that's right.
And I feel like you have to have those support systems, because even in the best families, where you can say, hey, mother and father were the best of ours, like there's going to be gaps, and you're always going to need somebody to help fill in those gaps.
What? That's gone, man. You're right. Those days are gone. They're never coming back. Reason being, families are not near as big as they used to be. That's number one. Number two, families are not close. Our society is not close on a personal basis. We're closer on a social media basis, meaning I can keep up with my classmate and move to Washington. But on a person-to-person basis, we don't mess with each other like that. And that's just something, man, to me made a difference in our rearing. Even though we from 27 to 30, 35, our generation, but it's a difference in 27 to 35 and then our sons and daughters generation. And I want to go to Tim, man. I'm going to wrap it up. But Tim said a good point. We saying parental rights, but really, man, it's parental privilege. And I'm going to make myself to do a better job. I'm speaking about me. Sometimes I work 8 to 5, and I work an hour away from home. And in the rural county, South Carolina, that's normal. I guess it's almost the same as commuting, but anyway, let's say I wake up 5:30, leave my house 7, get to work by 8, break 8 to 5, drive home 6. My son might have football practice from 6 to 7:30, 6 to 8. I get home, most of the time I want an hour to myself. I wash up, I want an hour, I might be in my phone just looking up stuff, just an hour, just quiet time. But by the time it's 10 o'clock, it's time to go to sleep, and we do it again the next day. And if there's any parents that seen this video, we have to do a better job, but let's split some family time. We got to get back to being personal with our kids, man. So this video is about parental rights, but remember, being a parent, it's no greater privilege than to be a parent and be responsible for another human being's rearing. But once again, I'm your boy Jay.
I'm your boy Dre. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Good night.
Peace.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love